Hey, Richard Bryce, Tennis Hacker. In this video, I want to help you understand why your forehand isn't improving. So if you're anything like I used to be, where you're constantly tweaking or changing different things, the way that you take your elbow back, what you do with your racket, trying to find a way to make things more stable so you can develop a more attacking game style, this video is for you. Because if you've been working on this, you've been watching YouTube videos, especially if you've been taking lessons and you're still missing those same balls, then there's obviously something that's going on, something that's preventing you from improving. So that's what I want to help you with in this video. I hope you get a lot out of it. If you do, it'd be awesome if you could let me know by giving me a thumbs up. And of course, if you haven't done so, subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out on any of my content. Okay, so the reason that your forehand isn't improving is going to come down to one of two things. The first one is that you're just focusing on the wrong thing, and this is something that I see going on all the time, even during coaching sessions. We've got the information available to us. We know how the pros hit it. It's all mapped out. We've got the biomechanical blueprints. But the ability, or your ability, to improve your forehand and develop a modern style attacking ground stroke is really going to come down to a couple of fundamental pieces, and that's going to be spacing and timing. Until you get the spacing and timing part right, nothing else works. The thing that makes tennis so hard is that those nasty opponents that you play won't hit the ball in the same place every time. Every shot is different. So it's all about you getting in the right position, setting up the right distance from the ball in order to hit the specific shot that you're trying to hit. Now, the most common problem for players that I've seen I've worked in 4 different countries, I've been doing this for a long time, I've seen thousands of players, is that most people get too close to the ball. That's why you go any club around the world, any park courts around the world, and you see players looking really jammed, too close to the ball, hitting it late, and because of that, they're never able to develop the forehand they want. So the first part is you've got to get the spacing right. The next part is going to be the timing aspect. And you've got to get both of those first before your forehand is going to develop. So obviously the first place to start is going to be the spacing. So what I want to do now is kind of show you just a little bit of my practice. I'm a right-handed player. I'm relearning to play left-handed because I foolishly started mountain bike racing and I separated my collarbone. So now I'm relearning to play left-handed. And what I'm about to show you is me at 15 weeks in. And the reason I'm showing you this is because you have to get the spacing first, and once you get that spacing, it really opens up the floodgate to allow you to develop your forehand. Okay, so I'm working on my high forehands. This is a shot that I wanted to develop early as a left-hander, because unless you can take that high ball, it really allows your opponent to push you back, and then when you play against pushers and grinders, they just float the ball back to you and there's nothing you can do. So it's a shot that I wanted to work on from the start. The key for me is really working on my spacing, trying to get the right distance from the ball. The way that I'm going to work on that is I'm going to do some inside out forehands, and then I'm going to do some forehands where I'm moving towards the ball, so my brain has to learn the spacing on both of them. So let's take a look. I think on the inside out forehands I actually did a pretty good job. Yes, there's definitely some technical stuff that I can work on and things that I need to improve on, but in terms of the spacing I did a good job, and because of that the shots that I was hitting I was fairly happy with. Decent speed, decent direction, and things were pretty solid. What we're going to see in a second, when I moved towards the ball, it was a very different story. I wasn't getting the spacing very good at all, and because of that, things weren't quite as pretty. So let's take a look at that now. So when I'm moving towards the ball, a lot of these I was getting far too close to the ball on, and because of that I was mishitting them. Now there is a couple of videos that I would like you to check out. I made a video a couple of weeks ago talking about the 4 most common forehand mistakes. I really want you to check that one out, so I'll place the link here. I also want you to check out the video where I was talking about how to learn and improve technique, because it's going to be key. You know, here I'm working on the spacing because I've identified that it's really important for me, and for a lot of other people it's really important as well. But it might not be your issue. You might be completely fine with your spacing. But the important thing to understand is that tennis is a sequence of events. You've got to recognize where the ball's going, you've got to do your unit turn, you've got to move to the ball, you've got to set the right distance from the ball, you've got to time it, then you've got the technique, then you've got to keep your head still. So you've got to think about things in that order. If you're not getting part 1, 2, and 3 correct, you're not ever going to be able to get part 4, 5, and 6. So that's kind of what was going on with me. I wasn't getting the right spacing. So in a second, I'm going to pause, I'm going to reset, I'm going to refocus my brain, and then start to kind of focus in a little bit better on what I was trying to do, which was getting the spacing. So let's take a look at that now. Okay, I've had a little bit of reset. I've remembered what I'm supposed to be doing. Okay, think about staying away from the ball. Think about staying away from the ball. Keep your distance from the ball. And then I'm trying to phrase this in a positive sense, which again I talked about in that previous video. And because of it, I'm doing a much better job. Yes, still things to work on technically. It's still a work in progress, but it's much better than it was a moment ago. I didn't change anything technical. I've just refocused on trying to be the right distance from the ball because I wasn't doing a very good job of it. Okay, so as you can see, it's a reasonable looking forehand. It's far from perfect. I've got a lot of stuff to work on and a long way to go, but it's reasonable. And all I'm doing is I'm thinking about setting up in the right position. So every time the ball machine feeds the ball, obviously I'm trying to time my split step, I'm trying to get my footwork, and I'm just thinking about being the right distance from the ball. So if I'm moving into the ball, as I move into the ball, I'm thinking about staying away from the ball. And if I'm doing the inside out variations, or the inside-in variations, I'm thinking about getting away from the ball. It's just trying to create that space because I'm working on the straight arm forehand. I've got to have that space or I don't have the room to allow the biomechanics to work. So the first thing that I'm thinking about is that spacing, but then I'm also thinking about the timing. Now, eventually both of these things are going to become automated, but at the moment, because I'm fairly new to this, I still have to think about the timing. So what I think about as I've got the spacing, I've got my unit turn, I'm thinking about pushing my racket away to the side. Now this is just the way I think about it. This isn't right or wrong, this is just what I have to do to break my timing habit. So I'm thinking about pushing my racket away to the side. Where I used to go wrong, I would do my unit turn, I'm set up, and I would kind of do my racket drop that way or my arm extension that way, and I used to mistime it. So now, especially on these high balls, which is obviously the one that I'm working on, what I think about is I've got my unit turn and I think about pushing my racket to the side, and now as I do that with my hip drive and my torso rotation, that seems to solve my timing problems. So that's not necessarily the perfect way to think about it. There's no right or wrong when it comes to this stuff, but that's what I have to think about to get my timing. And between thinking about those two things, so thinking about, okay, make sure I'm set up the right distance from the ball. If I was working on a lower ball, I'd be much closer, but for these higher balls, I'm further away. So I'm thinking about that distance actively, and then thinking about ways to kind of tweak and change and break my timing. And between those two things, it's really allowing me to develop a stroke that I'm really happy with. But like I said, there's kind of two parts to it. Part one is you're probably focusing on the wrong thing. So that one is really simple. Go out there, see whether you're getting too close to the ball. And if you are getting too close to the ball, because most people that can't improve their forehands are, think about that distance. Just think about being away from it as much as you can. Just play around with it. Be prepared to make mistakes. It's okay. You've got to get that spacing down. The second thing is you might not have the hand-to-eye coordination to make it work. You basically might lack the level of skill required to hit the stroke that you want. And I know that sounds harsh, but it's the reality of the situation. And I'm not saying this to be mean, I'm saying this because I want to help you get better at tennis. The reason that I've been able to progress my forehand so much in 15 weeks is not just because I've spent time on court, it's because I work off the court to improve my level of hand-to-eye coordination. I train my visual system and I train my coordination. And this was really a key piece of the puzzle when I was playing right-handed as well. I just showed you my left-handed high forehand. That was a shot I always struggled with right-handed. I played from the age of 8 up until the age of 35 without developing an attacking forehand on my right hand. As soon as I sorted my visual system problems out and I was able to judge this distance and get the right spacing, and I was able to time the ball because my visual system was working, I was able to start to develop that attacking forehand. My left hand, when I started learning, I already had a visual system that was working because I'd already done that. My problem was that I wasn't coordinated enough on my left side because it's my left side, so I wasn't coordinated enough. So I've spent a lot of time off the court working on my coordination. So I've got two things to try and help you with this. I've created a free Tennis Vision starter program for you. There's a link down below that you can start working on that. So it's going to help you with ball tracking, help you with improving your spacing on the visual side of things, and help you with timing stuff. But what I've also done is I've created a video to show you what I actually work on in terms of improving my coordination that's allowed me to kind of progress at a fairly rapid rate. So there's another link that's down in the description for that. If you want to check that out, it's going to look really weird and funny, but it's what I actually do to improve when I don't have time to get on the court, and I think you'll find it interesting, so go ahead, check that out. Okay, hope you found this video helpful. I hope you get those resources. If you did find the video helpful, give me a thumbs up. If you've got any questions or comments, leave them down below.